back and a very good morning to you. Now, counties in the northern eastern region might soon ban the entry and sale of muguka as vocal leaders inadvertently bow to pressure from various quarters that have been urging the county's leadership to take cue from the coastal counties of Mombasa and Kilifi and impose a ban on sale of the stimulant. Sunday, Defence Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale terming muguka a drug whose menace should no longer be entertained. Mwege William with more details.
Muguka farmers could soon be hit by another blow as leaders from the northeastern region hinted to a ban of the sale of the stimulant. Defence Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale joined a host of leaders from the region declaring muguka a drug that its use should not be advocated for.
There are many Kenyans who believe that muguka is a drug and it's destroying a lot of young people.
Although the crop being scheduled as a cash crop under the Crops Act of 2022, Duale was of a different opinion, stating that the stimulant has caused untold damage to its users, further calling the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua to include muguka in the list of his anti-drugs campaign.
We cannot be very selective. If we are fighting alcohol, we must fight muguka.
Maneno ya miraa lazima tuseme hapana. Enough is enough. It has really destroyed this community.
If the ban is effected, the northeastern region will add to the list that has said no to the sale and use of the stimulant, with Mombasa and Kilifi county governments imposing a ban for the sale of the stimulant. Wajir County has announced plans to introduce new rules to regulate the entry and sale of muguka. And Mira, even as Kwale Governor Fatuma Achani announces plans to increase charges for the entry of lorries ferrying muguka from 10,000 shillings to 300,000 shillings.
Let us stand up for our people. Let's save our people. I know it's very political. It is somebody else's product that is supposed to be sold to the rest of the country. We say no to it.
I will ask the Deputy President in the next 2 weeks to call that conference, because he's the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, to call that conference and we candidly discuss the effect, and we show evidence, the effect of muguka to certain regions and certain communities.
A court sitting in Embu declared the bans by Mombasa and Kilifi unlawful after a suit challenging the move was filed by muguka traders. The headache now lies with the government on how to solve this debacle, with the protagonist of the stimulant insisting it is a cash crop legally recognized, antagonist of the stimulant maintaining it is a drug that has caused a lot of devastating menace within the community. Mwege William for TV47 in Isili, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mwege, for that. A family in Kambu Town, Makueni County, is seeking justice after a 1.5-year-old child died at the Kambu police station in an unclear circumstances. The officers from Kalembe police station in Kambu area alleged to have slapped and seriously injured the child while arresting his mother on Wednesday, the 29th of May afternoon, over an alleged death, as Chichi Josephine now tells us.
Mtoto alifungiwa na yeye pale Kambu police post. Mtoto alituacha jana.
4 police officers in Makueni County are under investigation following the tragic demise of a 1.5-year-old baby while in their custody under distressing circumstances.
Kama hawa askari wameajiriwa, na this is a national police service, ina protect human life. Na kuna effort ya mtoto ni mgonjwa na mama yake amesema mtoto ni mgonjwa. Basi yule askari tu, ile utu wa mzazi angetoa ule mtoto apatie wale majirani walikuja, mtoto apelekwe hospitali, aende atibiwe na abaki na maabusu wake, hii kuwe ni kesi ya kuendelea kwenda mbele.
The innocent child is alleged to have passed away while in custody late Wednesday night, following a sequence of events that have raised serious questions. Zipora Muteti, the mother, was reportedly locked up by authorities at Kalembe police station in Kambu area, and shockingly, she was alleged to have been denied the opportunity to seek medical assistance for her injured baby.
Wakati Cyrus aliingia kwa duka yangu, nilikuwa nimeketi. Akanishika mkono, akanislap hivi. Kaniambia beba huyu kitu inaita mtoto, nikabeba mtoto. Kubeba mtoto nikamwambia arudi kwa nyumba kuchukua zile madawa ziko pale zenye nilipewa the last night. Mimi nikamwambia ni sawa, sikatai kwenda station. Unanipea ruhusa nipeleke mtoto Makindu, akaniambia kumbafu wewe. Akarusha tena makofi hivi, mimi nikainama nikaendea mtoto.
Reports indicate that the officers, allegedly from Kalembe police station, subjected the child to physical harm during the arrest of his mother on Wednesday afternoon, purportedly over an outstanding debt.
Kanifurahisha na mtoto hapo nje akanipiga silabu mbili ambapo mtoto alikuwa anainua mikono hivi anizuia akilia. Akapiga kofi kafika mtoto kwa masikio. Nikamwambia mtoto amefariki. Akaniambia akashtuka akasema ni ukweli. Wacha nipigie Inspector Lama ndio alisema usifunguliwe.
Adding to the gravity of the situation, Kambo's Deputy Commissioner Ahmed Hussein contradicted initial reports suggesting that the child didn't succumb to his injuries at the police station but rather at the hospital where he was taken after his mother's release. However, this version of events clashes with the account provided by Kambo Hospital Chief Administrator Abdullah Aziz Ali, who asserted that the child was brought to the hospital already deceased.
Kugundua kwa mtoto amefariki, sababu ya kifo ilikuwa haiko wazi kabisa, so tunangojea ifanywe hiyo autopsy ambayo itakuwa very comprehensive. Hiyo ndio itatuambia sababu ya kifo ya mtoto.
Presently, the child's body rests at Kambo Hospital mortuary awaiting thorough investigations into this heart-wrenching incident. Chichi, Josephine, TV 47.
Thank you, Chichi Josephine, for that. And that leads us to a conversation this morning. It's a Monday discussing matters health. And this morning we're discussing something that either you or someone that you know really is affected with. Stomach ulcers. This is a whole conversation that you have in the home, office, and you know, someone tells you, I always have ulcers. But what really are stomach ulcers? What do you do when you have them? How do you even prevent them? We have the best of minds for this conversation. Dr. Rupal She is a gastroenterologist kutoka Kenyatta National Hospital. Thank you for making time.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, and you can definitely tell us who is Dr. Rupal, apart from being around KNH.
I'm a practicing consultant physician, gastroenterologist. A gastroenterologist is a doctor that deals with the stomach. So we've got the stomach, the large intestine, the small intestine. Yes, and I'm a mother too. I enjoy that. 2 boys. Yeah, so that's me.
All right, thank you very much for that. Now, for our main conversation today, matters stomach ulcers. Break it down for us. For the simplest terms, that someone watching this, they probably know someone who has them themselves. They're thinking, well, I probably might have them. Break it down for us.
So stomach ulcers is what the patient comes and tells you. That, doc, I've got stomach ulcers. So I'll ask them, what makes you feel that you have stomach ulcers? That is the most important part. Because ulcers are diagnosed on doing something called endoscopy, where you go and visualize there's actually an ulcer in the stomach or the small intestines. So what patients come and tell you is what they feel. They feel like there's a burning sensation in their stomach, just right there, which is called the epigastric area, or they feel some acid coming up in the throat. They're feeling that something just keeps burning all the time, with or without meals, or some get worse with meals. So that's when we can decide that this, yes, they have gastric issues, meaning there's something that's causing them to have more acid, which is not helping them heal. Normally you get acid to help you digest food, but when it's in extreme, where the healing versus the injury is not happening at the same time, that's when you have hyperacid situations and ulcers developing.
Right, so now the fact that there's a difference for us. So if you have to go all the way to a doctor to actually ascertain all that. So what really now causes this particular, when someone says I have a burning sensation, I feel like my stomach is bloated, and some of this, so the symptoms. Yeah.
So the most common in our population is a bacteria called H. pylori. Okay, it's very common. The prevalence is very high. It's above 90%, and that just causes you to have more acid than normal. Okay, so our prevalence in Kenya is above 90%. So that means if you're taking 10 people, 9 people have H. pylori. But not everyone is symptomatic. There's some who are symptomatic, some who are not. These are asymptomatic. So the symptomatic ones are the ones that we want to treat, because it's affecting your daily work, how you manage yourself, because you're actually reliant on medication. So if I'm able to give you something that will help suppress the acid and probably eradicate the H. pylori, that's what you need to do. So that's not the only thing. Pregnancy, certain drugs, medication. So you think that I'm using a painkiller, but certain painkillers will also increase the acid that is in your stomach, such as what we normally use, headaches, maramoja, any of the NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, which is aspirin, diclofenac, and you use them because you just feel pain, not realizing that it can also cause you to have more acid, which would lead you to have ulcers.
All right. So which, let's say, specific places on the stomach that how will I know that I need to come and visit you at KNH? Because some would say they probably have a certain burning sensation at the hapa juu kwa tumbo, the very top. Some would say at the bottom, and even the fact that we have such an image, just even to illustrate for us. So how will I know that I need to come to you? So
first of all, if it's a pain that's been persistent, that's not been improving on any treatment, most patients end up taking, before they even go to the hospital, they say, I used some antacid, or they used some juice or something to help them feel better. But when it's not getting better, that's one of the things that you should just go to see any doctor closer to you. Now, the alarm symptoms. Alarm symptoms are where you have weight loss. There's pain and there's weight loss. And then you notice that your stool is a little black or darker than usual. If you start having, or you vomit and you notice some blood in the vomitus, those are all alarm symptoms, meaning that requires you to see a specialist even before you start going and seeing the other doctors. So your aim is to go to one of the tertiary facilities to help you diagnose what's happening to you. Yes.
All right. So is there something that I did wrong before that actually led me to have ulcers? Some would ask also, is it genetic?
So there is a genetic predisposition. Some of the patients who are H. pylori positive, certain blood groups do make them have more acid than the rest of the groups. Yeah. So there's an association with patients with blood group O. They have more acidity or with H. pylori. So yes, there are some groups. Genetically, there are some people who have more acid, but again, it wouldn't be taking over their lives. They have more acid, they understand, so they probably know how to manage themselves. But by the time it's taking over your life, you need to seek medical attention.
Right. So now, apart from matters genetics, is there something that I would have done? Something, probably a certain diet, certain things that I was drinking, something that I probably did that actually led me to have ulcers?
So like I said, drugs.
Okay.
So there's specific drugs, the ones that we prescribe as doctors, antibiotics, that can make you have ulcers or feeling of having ulcers. Headaches, one of the drugs, because it contains a drug called, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, aspirin, diclofenac, the ones we use, old people use for pain and all that, those ones. Then alcohol. Alcohol is a big contributor, right? Because at the end of the day, it's quite toxic to the mucosa. So it can cause you to start wearing out the mucosa. So that's what we call gastritis. But this is the prelude before you get an ulcer. So how I explain to a patient is like, gastritis is a rough road. A pothole is an ulcer.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So we have drugs, alcohol as well, but then are there certain foods that someone might probably be indulging over time? Because someone would say, well, I am a non-alcoholic. I've never partaken of any kind of alcoholic drink, but then I still have ulcers. So I don't partake any drugs that I remember, but then, yeah.
Yes. So some of them, it's, there has been alluded to that there are spices, but none of us is eating ghost peppers, right? So, I mean, that will really burn. But the mild, some of them will give you discomfort. But ulcers, yes, there's been an alluded to, but no proven data to say that, yes, spices do that.
Right.
So avoiding very spicy food is good as well, because it does cause some irritation.
Okay. But then, so definitely it's you telling us that we should also watch out on the kind of spices that we indulge in as well. So how about now, so apart from, let's say, spices, and now getting into even understanding your diet, really, because even as you're going to be opening the phone lines for people to also, call in live, they'd be curious, because the foods that people say, I don't take beans, for example, because, let's say, the gas, there are certain foods that I don't now take because I have ulcers. Walk us through how that works.
It's basically, they're not able to digest it, because you need, that duodenum is the antrum, that's the lower part of the stomach, and the duodenum secrete the most amount of acid. So when that is not healing as per how it's supposed to, at the rate that it's supposed to heal, because of the acid that is there, then food is sitting there or is poorly digested, and which is moving to the next part of the stomach, which will now give you this imbalance of the food that's not in the right place, because it just didn't go through the digestion process well enough. Now, you must understand, we always have acid. Acid is important to help us digest food. But if it's there when you've not eaten, then that's not right. That means there's a problem. Why is there acid yet there's no food that it needs to digest? So this is where all the drugs or H. pylori comes in, because it's just not the quality. It's too much at the wrong time.
All right. Now the fact that we've formed the basis of this conversation, 0795 045 864 is the number to call us live. Write this number down somewhere. 0795 045 864. You just have it on our screens. Call us live. Dr. will be answering the kind of questions that you have, or maybe even comments concerning this matter we're asking you. Do you have stomach ulcers? Do you know someone who has stomach ulcers? How has it affected their day-to-day lives? Also, can share in your comments. How do you treat them for your own case? Because, I mean, Dr. having conversations with, pardon me, quite a number of people, some would say, well, I probably eat, let's say, raw tomatoes. Some would say I take probably milk. Some would give you their own variety of how they actually treat them just locally at home. Yes. So I want you to also, even as we expect some of these calls, walk us through how some of this, let's say, treatments, the local treatments that we have at home work. For example, let's say for the milk. Some medics would say milk would actually make you, rather aggravate the ulcers. But then some would actually take milk, probably cold or warm, and say, well, it actually eases the pain. Yes. So what's the
rationale?
Yeah, the rationale.
So, okay. In terms of milk, requires a lot of like you need to digest it quite a bit before it moves from the stomach to the small intestine. Where like I say, the duodenum. That's where digestion happens. It starts in the mouth. Yes, but we don't chew milk, so milk just goes right down to the duodenum, and then it has to move to the small intestine. Now, if your duodenum is already challenged or is unwell, so it's not doing its work, and that means it'll have to digest a little more. Now, milk is difficult. So yes, it works for some, but it's a short thing, it's a short-lived thing. And then we also have to talk about lactose intolerance. So not everyone is able to digest food, the milk, as they're supposed to. Now, so that's one of the things that helps them having a lot of bloatedness, because you're moving the food too quickly from a part of the stomach to the next.
All right. Could I pause a little bit? We have a caller. Is it Alice or Ali kutoka Ali kutoka Nairobi? Habari asubuhi Ali.
Mzuri sana, mimi naitwa Ali.
Yes, asante sana for calling us.
Yeah, I thank you for kwa kipindi juu niko nayo shida. Imekuwa inasumbua for the last 1 year, hata juzi nimesikia mkisema.
Okay.
Yeah, nimekuwa na shida, nimekuwa nikila chakula but sina appetite. Appetite yangu iko very low. Nikikula chakula, hata ile chakula ya mtoto ni mingi sana kwangu kula kumaliza.
Right.
Alafu nikila hizi chakula, mfano nikila wali maybe nini ambayo iko plain imechemshwa tu.
Okay.
Hapo ninakula. Alafu sema kitu kama chapati pia nikila naona gas inazidi. Juu I've been in hospital, nikipima naambiwa niko na gas. Sasa sina H. pylori sina. Na kutapika pia nimekuwa nikitapika. Sijakula lakini kitapika natapika matapishi mengi sana, almost 5 liter nikitapika. Na inakuja with some spots kama ya damu hivi, and then sijakula.
Okay.
You see? Yeah. Alafu the other thing pia nilikuwa na nini? Unapata saa zingine najikuna, tumbo inakuja inajaa, and then sijakula kitu chochote, unaona?
All right.
Yeah, so nimejaribu kutibu but I've not seen any changes. Hata nikauliza mwingine akaniambia I have to seek a specialist in stomach doctor, ule ambaye anashughulika mambo na tumbo, ndio nijue nitatumia diet gani kukula.
Right. And Ali, a good thing that tuko na daktari hapa specialize hiyo maneno. Maybe daktari, you can assist him.
Ali,
okay.
I'm sorry you've had this, uko na hiyo shida kwa muda. Sasa itakwanza labda ile chakula inakuletea hali ya ugonjwa, itabidi uache na uende kuona specialist, ndio specialist akuelezee. Kuna lazima angalie, kuna test inaitwa endoscopy, huwa inaangalia tumbo, hali ya tumbo, kama tumbo iko na hiyo shida yoyote. Kama iko na hiyo shida na shida kama iko au it's there or not there, then the doctor can decide, ndio akupatie madawa kutuliza acid kwanza, ndio tumbo ipone. Ikipona ndio hali ya kusiaga hiyo chakula kwa tumbo, hiyo digestion inaweza kuenda vizuri.
Yes. So nikiuliza cause hiyo kupima endoscopy, maybe how can I find you, cause imenisumbua bedhe for the last 3 months, nimekuwa very sick sana. Hata ingine nafika jioni na hisi baridi, siwezi fanya kitu chochote, joint inaisha nguvu.
Sasa Kenyatta National Hospital huwa tuko na clinic ya kuona wagonjwa, both private and public. Tuko na hiyo services ya endoscopy. Ukianza kuona daktari kwanza, then utaendekezwa vile kuenda kuona hao ma specialist. Tuko wengi na tunataka kusaidia wewe.
All right. Asante sana Ali. I hope utapata hiyo maneno yote, and I can also reach out to her. I'll be probably sharing on that for you. That is Ali kutoka Nairobi. 0795045864. As we continue the conversation, you can also share in your experience probably, or someone that you know who has stomach ulcers and how they're actually dealing with it. So before actually Ali called you, walking us through how even for lactose intolerant and even the whole rationale for milk, does it help? Should we, even for someone listening to you this morning, they're wondering, should I completely stop milk?
What I prefer telling patients, is that using mala, maziwa mala, because it's already pre-digested.
Okay.
So it's a little lighter, if I can use that terminology. It's easy, it's already pre-digested. So it's removed all the protein and all that needs that digestion. So you're already taking in something pre-digested. It will not have to sit a lot longer in the stomach, and it will be able to not give you as much bloating. So milk, initially when you're not feeling great and your acidity is taking over, avoid it. The best thing is avoid whatever triggers your situation.
And on that bit, because you've already given us pointers on what to really avoid, matters the kind of drugs, alcohol as well, and now too much spicy food. But then now for the foods themselves, because someone might really be preparing, but then apparently they're actually leading themselves and aggravating, let's say, the ulcers that are there. So what kind of, let's say, foods should someone avoid?
Okay, so I'll go back a little bit. So we have functional disorders, which is they're not related to anything, it's just how your body is. Those are functional. Now we have other disorders which we've alluded to previously, is because of H. pylori or drugs and all that. So those, once you treat, patients should be able to go back to a normal eating habits or lifestyle. If you have the functional disorders, which now where you have irritable bowel syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome there's a mixed type, there's a constipation type, there's diarrhea, and those. So at the end of the day, those require you to probably avoid the food triggers, right? So that you can actually balance your stomach out.
Right.
So most of the patients have, the lactose intolerance, the gluten intolerance that we're all now talking about, and protein, like they'll tell you, oh, I have allergies to protein. Those are all falling into the category of the functional disorders, where they have all these issues coming up in the stomach because of using certain foods. So food, at the end of the day, is how you heal, because the stomach can only heal with the food that you eat. Mwili haijengwi na mbao. Yes? So if you want your body to heal, initially you avoid what is triggering. So you give some time. Avoid them, right? Until you're able to be in a better state to handle whatever the foods are. So foods rich in zinc, magnesium, manganese, calcium, they all help in the healing of the gut. So foods that are rich, and we're lucky in this part of the world that we have a lot of, GMO, not GMO foods, right? Organic.
The organic foods,
We have more organic food than GMO. So we're lucky that this would definitely be positively affecting us than negatively, because you're sure that whatever you're taking, your body is going to be able to absorb the minerals and vitamins to help you heal.
Right. Dr. Before we continue, allow me to take a look at some questions on our 22047 SMS number, which you can also text us, 22047, and text us. So Austin from Mombasa, ulcer zangu zimesumbua since nikiwa Rema, which is primary school, nifanye nini ziishe? Another one, Saseni, Fei hapa mamangu akona ulcers, na zinasumbua sana tufanye. And another one, hi TV47, mimi hukunywa maziwa baridi for my ulcers, is it okay? I think the last one you've really touched on that one. But then to just answer Austin as well as Faye before we continue.
So when you've had ulcers for a long time, that already is an indication. We've discussed this earlier, that you need to go see a specialist. You don't wait to see the local doctor, because the doctor, it is beyond the local doctor's ability or to help you further from there. So please just go to, if you're in Mombasa, go to Coast General Hospital. They have gastroenterologists. They have 2 of them. So you would get assisted. Me trying to tell you, because I'd have to know why you've had them for long. Have you really cleared H. pylori? Is it, stress related? Are you genetically predisposed? I need to know that before I'm going to tell you. But as of now, if it's really bothering you, you probably need to use an antacid until you're able to seek further medical attention. But medical attention here is key.
Okay, right. And now, even to Faye's question goes, the fact that she alludes to the mom, but then we're not really sure how old the mother is. Yes. But then, does now age, is age a factor here?
Yes,
because
it is.
For Austin says since primary school, and personally, I remember even back then, people would tell you, my dad is this one, and we're in primary school, and they're saying, I can't take, let's say, Giverio beans because I have ulcers, and these are people who are like 12 years old. So does it affect the body differently for a 12-year-old comparing to a man or a woman who is above, let's say, 60 years old?
Definitely, because you see the different age groups tell you that this could just be a genetic issue. If you're younger, you're not able to digest it, so maybe you're lactose intolerant, or you have gluten intolerance. Those are the things that you would also start thinking. But when a 60-year-old who's been well all these years, all of a sudden starts coming and telling you, I've got this issue in my stomach, I feel very tired, that already tells you need to screen these patients for cancer. And any of the alarm signs and symptoms are weight loss, melena stools, dark stools, if you have any vomiting with blood, that already is a red flag sign. You need to be screened. Screening is going and seeing a specialist, and the specialist will need to do the relevant tests, one of them being endoscopy or colonoscopy, to make sure that there is no malignancy, cancer, that is sitting there. A young person with no red flag signs, it's one of those things that H. pylori, drugs, or just growing up, or hormonal, or all those. Yes.
Right. And in your experience, Dr. I'm pretty sure you've come across quite a number of cases. Yes. First of all, you can tell us how the prevalence, even in Kenya or even in Nairobi, looks like. The kind of patients that you see for KNH, the kind of cases that you see, as well as now realities, practically speaking, for someone who they know they have ulcers, or probably they think they have ulcers. Practically speaking, what's the size of an ulcer? And I mean, if you had it when you're 12 years old, does the size increase moving?
So, ulcers heal. Ulcer is like a pothole. Okay, they don't stay there for the rest of your life. You should be able to heal as long as you are taking medication that controls acid. Ulcers heal. Chronic ulcers are the ones that can lead to cancer. Okay, so we don't want that. And yes, we see the spectrum of diseases where you've been using a lot of drugs, you had H. pylori, you didn't realize you're not taking drugs on an empty stomach, so you get an acute ulcer, you bleed, but those ulcers bleed, and those are the ones we sort out in emergency situations. So, but you can't have ulcers forever and ever without you not losing weight, without you not having blood, dark stools. There's always a sign. So that's how the doctor picks it up. Most times you have gastritis, which is, I told you, a rough road. So the stomach is not healing at the rate that it's supposed to. So that's a rough road. Okay.
And then now for ulcers, now the potholes.
Yes.
Do this because, I mean, even practically, even for roads, we'd have a rough road and the potholes will be...
Pothole means you've covered the whole, like if the road is there, right? And then there's so much of the road that's eaten away that it's gone down to the level of where there's no road. It's gone back to the sand. The rough road is that they're just pebbles, there's something, they lose everything, That's what it is. So an ulcer is a complete removal of the mucosa. So
is the rough road in a typical manner for human beings? Is the rough road okay?
No, it's not.
Oh, the rough road should also be treated?
Yes, it should be treated. Because at the end of the day, this will now predispose you to an ulcer, small to big.
Okay.
small to big, but small ones will heal. Big ones take longer to heal, which can now also heal with, you know, two sides coming together and where it doesn't allow for food to pass. Yeah? So that's not a good thing. So gastritis, you can live with gastritis for long, but it's patchy. So you have small area that's not working, and then they just don't have the ability to heal anymore.
All right. So are there chances of this now potholes, which are the ulcers,
yes.
reoccurring? Let's say you probably had them when you were 12 years, and then they start to reoccur again some years later in your life.
Yes.
Do they go back to what you were telling us on the kind of predisposition of, let's say, alcohol?
Yes, they do. So there's some people who have an increased risk of getting ulcers. So if you're one of them, you will end up getting.
Okay.
Yeah? Because you're well, you had H. pylori, we cleared it, but your stomach's, you know, like it's thin. It's not the best. And then you've been doing all these other things, you know, not really taking care, not following the nice diet. You just eat whatever, and you literally dependent, you're eating a very Western diet, yeah? We're not going to get all your minerals and your vitamins to heal and the nutritional support that you require.
Right.
So then that's a stomach that's at risk
of having
getting ulcers.
Okay, and a recurring of that.
And recurring. So you'll never get better. So you're just in a vicious cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, and you don't realize, and you say, oh, let me keep taking these painkillers because it makes me feel better. But it's very short term. The painkiller helps you feel pain, not for a short period of time, but then you're back in the vicious cycle.
Right, right. And just a reminder, in case you're just joining us right now, as we discuss matters stomach ulcers, Dr. is here for your aid. 0795 045 864 is the number to call us live. Save that number right now and just text us. Or you can also text us, call us live, 0795 045 864. Text us on WhatsApp, 0793 267 279, and ask Dr. all those questions, or you can probably share in your experience. Earlier on, we had a caller from Nairobi just sharing his experience on the same. I'll be taking a look at some comments here on Facebook as well. But then, before we get to that, also having a number of conversations with people who have ulcers, they probably tell you they start to probably ache at night or before meals, or rather even between meals. Explain to us how that works.
So it's simple. Basically, it's the time when you're hungry, you need acid. So it's expecting that you're going to have more food coming in, so it wants to make acid ready, in readiness for the food it's going to receive. Unfortunately, the acid at the pH that is very high. So it's it denatures the food, but it also is more toxic to the mucosa.
Okay.
So, and if it is as an outcome of drugs or H. pylori, you know, that needs to be addressed. Okay? Because some people who also overeat, right? You need more acid to bring down, you know, to digest the food.
So also overeating is is bad.
Yes, because your body is trying to it's trying to digest the food. So if it's got a lot, it needs to make more acid to digest it, right?
But what's the rationale of because every individual has their own interpretation when it comes to overeating. So what's really the rationale of overeating?
80% full. Once you feel 80% full, you should stop eating.
Interesting. Okay.
So 80% is the 80-20 rule. Yeah, 80%, once you feel full, stop eating. You don't need the food to come up all the way to your throat, which most people do. So once you feel full, 80%, stop eating. That will help you.
Okay. So a number of, now someone who has ulcers, they're probably wondering, let's say they're waiting for the supper at around, let's say, 9 p.m. and the ulcers start aching, you know, the stomach is really aching at around 8 p.m., an hour before the supper, you know, gets ready. So do you eat now, let's say, solid food, the main food, at that time immediately?
Yes,
or are there, should you engage with in drinks at that time? Let's say
that's the peak
probably
time.
Blended, let's say, cabbage or something.
No, but that's your peak time. You see, 8 o'clock, you know, at the end of the day, your body tells you what's best for you. So if you're feeling hungry at 8 o'clock, don't wait till 9 o'clock. Eat at 8. It's already your body signaling to you that you are hungry. Yes? So eat something, and then don't go eat at 9 o'clock and eat such a big heavy meal. Eat your 8 o'clock meal, and then now whatever you've eaten then, just let it go to the next meal. Yeah.
I'm being told you have, is it Esther? Yes, Esther kutoka Muranga. How are you, Esther?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, unaweza paza sauti kidogo tu alafu sijui kama uko na swali au maoni.
Niko na swali.
Yes, uliza.
Nimekuwa 3 years back nikapata acid narudi na mdomo.
Okay.
Then I was advised nikaenda endoscopy. Endoscopy ikasema I have gastritis.
All right.
Na till now nasikianga bado hiyo gasi inarudi.
Okay.
What should I do? Ama gastritis inapona ama haiponi?
Okay, so Esther, thank you for your question. By the time, if something has not, if the doctor gave you medication and you didn't improve after gastritis, you need to go back to the doctor. Maybe the doctor will need to evaluate whether there is something else that could be done. Most times they'll have to decide whether they'll put you back on medication for longer so that the healing has happened, or maybe whether drugs did help you. Certain drugs, not all drugs are the same. They all do the same work, but not all are the same. So maybe the doctor can decide he wants to put for longer. Maybe the time that you are taking the medication, maybe there was some interaction, meaning ulikuwa nakula chakula mapema kuliko vile dawa ilikuwa ishaingia kwa mwili. So lots of things. It's best to go and see the doctor again ndio tuamue kama hiyo imepona au ni ugonjwa ingine bado inakusumbua.
Okay.
Right. Asante sana Esther. Kama you have any follow-up questions or umepata yote?
Nimepata, nimeshukuru.
Okay, asante sana Esther. From Muranga there, 0795045864 is the number to call us live. Before we actually wrap up this conversation, use this opportunity to have, this is a whole free consultation for them. So yes, use this opportunity to call in live, and the Daktari will be, ensuring that your question is answered on the same. So before she called you, explaining to us how if you're hungry at that time,
that's the time you need to eat. Yes.
Yeah. But then, okay, let's be fair, because let's say during the Ramadan, for example, I mean, someone is fasting, or even for Christians, so, someone is fasting, for example, or you can't actually access foods at that time. Are there, let's say, certain foods or drinks that you can partake? And even as you give us the answer of that, we do have Dennis kutoka Nairobi. Dennis kutoka Nairobi, habari asubuhi?
Nzuri sana.
Uko na swali, uko na maoni?
Niko na swali.
Yes, uliza.
Sasa niko na shida, nasikianga pande yangu ya left. A burning sensation inatoka from the side ya left ya chest ikienda kwa the ribs na inakuja hivyo hadi kwa mkono. Nilienda nikafanyiwa the test za liver, nikafanyiwa hizo test za heart, zote nimeambiwa ziko sawa, but this one still bado inakuja tu. I don't know whether hiyo pia inakuwa mambo na gastration ama inakuwa ni nini. Because sometimes I'm having a heartburn.
Okay.
And then niliambiwa sometimes ni reflux ya acid yenye inakuja unasikia kwa throat.
So for you, is it have you gone to the hospital ukaambiwa ni stomach ulcers ama is it uko na uchungu kwa tumbo?
No, yes, there's a time nilikuwa na H. pylori na ilitibiwa, nikameza dawa, nikamaliza hizo dawa. then ikakuwa imebaki niko sawa, but sometimes bado nasikia uchungu kwa tumbo. But now this one inakujanga on the left side of the chest, ikikuja hapo kwa ribs, na nikafanya hizo test zingine zote na nikaambiwa tu hizo vitu zingine ziko sawa. So I wanted to know if that also acidity inaweza kuwa maybe inafika to the left side of the ribs hapo ikishika huko.
Right.
So thank you for your question. So most times, this is Dr. Maru, sorry, I took over. What you'd have to do is retest yourself for H. pylori, whether it's positive or not. And you'd also want to be tested something called endoscopy, because we'd need to establish whether it's cardiac or non-cardiac. You've said they've done some cardiac tests, which were negative, so I don't know which cardiac tests were done. And in most times, by the time you're getting a referral for any patients in Kenyatta National Hospital, the doctor needs to write you a referral letter of everything that was done and what was found. So we can correlate, tunaweza kuangalia kama ni, as in has something been missed out. And we would probably want to visualize. Endoscopy is visualization with a light and a camera inside the stomach, where we want to see how it's looking. Is it looking like it's rough? Is it looking like it's got small ulcers? Is it looking like there are, some mineral deficiencies or vitamin deficiency? There are lots of things that we can identify, and that would help us decide whether, because it's on the left side, the stomach does fall right in the middle, a little, a bit on the leftish more than the right. So it's there. So it could be something related to so the stomach has the esophagus, then you have the gastric, the stomach itself, and you have the duodenum. Yeah, you can see it over there.
Yeah.
So from what is explained, it's probably around the stomach and the duodenum, which we need to visualize.
Right, right. So before Dennis's call, so I was asking, before you actually now eat a whole full meal, are there any tips that you could give us on, let's say, the kind of vegetables or maybe even fruits that you can take, let's say smoothies, for example, and what should even contain in it before, just to ease the pain, before you actually now have a full solid meal?
Now, you see, if I were to be your doctor, first I tell you don't fast until you're better. Okay? Because the fasting is giving you, is not helping you keep your stomach in a healthy situation. Okay? So fasting may not be recommended. So even during Ramadan, the patients that I see, I recommend them to stop fasting until they're feeling better, because it just worsens what they already have.
Right.
So, and they can't drink water or they can't eat something, to keep them going. So my rule of thumb is, one, I tell them to stop eating sugary food. Why sugar? Sugar spikes up, like, when you drink it, it makes you feel that there's so much food, I need to bring bring down the sugars.
Right.
So what does the body do? It tries to make more acids, digestive enzymes, it tries to so that to bring the sugars down. But it doesn't help you, because there was no food, it was just sugar, which spiked your blood levels, but it didn't add any value, or it did not sit in your stomach, covering the lining. It didn't do any of those. Okay. So it was negative to you. So so I don't recommend sugar as well. So that's very. So if you tell me you want to have a smoothie, that'll just push your sugars up.
So even if it was just you blended, for example, some fruits, or
but if you blend them, blending, what it does is you have a lot of sugar that's available, and it breaks down the fiber. Right. But you need fiber to sit in your stomach for the digestion process to happen. You understand? It's not going to get digested, but it help you coat the mucosa.
Okay. I believe that's one question that a number of people really wanted to know on that. A couple of comments on Facebook. Jacadero Jr. says, I don't know whether I should call mine stomach ulcers. I have a problem where each and every morning when I wake up, I experience stomach ache. It's a common thing in my life. So that's according to Jacadero. Someone on SMS number says, Hi, TV47. Can stomach ulcers lead to cancer of the colon? So could probably walk us through this before we get your final thoughts on stomach ulcers.
So you asked me about a diet. So the recommended diet is to have the modified Mediterranean diet. What is it? Modified Mediterranean diet. What it is, which most Africans do before they started eating like wazungus, yeah? So we have a lot of vegetables. Okay. So half your plate should have vegetables. You should have palm size of protein and palm size of your carbohydrates, right? That's a balanced diet, yeah? So modified Mediterranean diet is basically the same thing. A lot of vegetables, good fat, no fried foods, yeah? Fruits and vegetables, but in their raw forms, in the raw meaning even if it's slightly cooked, but not overcooked.
So for the proteins, is it now animal or plant-based?
Any protein you can choose. But you must remember, animal protein are pure proteins. The plant proteins have both a bit of carbohydrate and protein. They're still good. They're still a good source of protein. So you should have a balanced diet. Now to getting out of when the beans are giving you trouble, then you have to choose which beans work best for you. Not all beans are the same. Yeah? So there's something called the low FODMAP diet. LOWFODMAP, low FODMAP diet, which tells you what to avoid and what to eat. Mostly when you're having a lot of issues with your stomach, yeah? But most times, like you heard, most of the patients say that they'll have tea and they'll have bread. Not a balanced diet, right? The next meal, they'll probably eat ugali, big portion of ugali, and very small portion of the vegetables. So already you can see, in terms of their nutrition, whatever they're taking is not aligned to helping them heal. Right?
All right.
So those are some of the things that we need to say, that carbohydrates will spike up your sugar. You get hungry faster, so you have acid. So balance the two. Have small frequent meals, space them out. Don't eat biscuits, don't eat, they're going to spike up your sugar. They're all processed foods. Yeah? Eat a natural meal. Yeah? Have whatever you ate at dinner, have it for lunch or your breakfast. Yeah? Have your ugali, have a bit of your meat, and have your vegetables. And you don't need a lot. Just need enough to keep you going for the next 3 to 5 hours or whatever works best for you.
Right. So, Daktari, in 2 minutes as we wrap it up, the question on, can stomach ulcers lead to colon cancer, before you give us your
colon
remarks?
Cancer, colon, like I said, the stomach, yes. Then we have small intestine and large intestine. So stomach is on its own, which, yes, you can get gastric cancer and you can get colon cancer, those two. So one leading to the other, possibly, if you have a genetic risk. But we see more colon cancer in Africa currently. Now gastric cancer is not as much. We have esophageal cancer, more common in certain areas of Kenya. Yes, so gastric cancer is now where we're identifying.
Right. For your final thoughts, something, a takeaway that someone should have on this conversation.
So everyone, I'm happy that now the stomach is getting some, limelight, because everything before was, the heart and the lungs and the brain and But yes, if your gut health is very, very important. One, it helps you go to work and feel happy at work. So keep your gut happy and your health is happy. So I think that's my take home.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rupal Maru, gastroenterologist, got a mouthful title there, from Kenyatta National Hospital, giving us tips on this conversation. In case you're just joining us right now, don't worry, you can head over to the YouTube page and check out all this interview and interact with us on our digital platforms. We're asking you, do you have stomach ulcers? How do you treat them? And how has it affected you in your life? This is what we do every single Monday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Matters Health. Coming up later, Matters First Aid. When you have have eye injuries, kitu imeingia kwa macho, how do you do it? You have a speck in your eye or just an